and welcome to February's Leading Female Executive LinkedIn Live special. My name is Catherine King and I'm the Director for the Business of Data team. It's absolutely lovely to have you joining us today. I mean, it's no secret, I absolutely love hosting these 30-minute sessions as we always get so much value out of them. These sessions began in September of last year. So if you're just tuning in now, there's lots available on demand on the Business of Data platform. I do urge you to go and have a look. Now, as the audience, you love them and I've enjoyed them, as I say, so we've kept them going. Now, don't forget, you can influence the topic as well. Just let us know what you would like to hear and have discussed. You can either do this, email us, we're at the bod@criniumgroup.com. Pop me a message, pop a comment, however you would like to get in touch. Just reach out and let us know what you would like to be discussed. Now, today is all about the cloud. So if you have questions, get them in, pop them in the comment section, and hopefully I will see them in time to ask them to our brilliant panel. However, that being said, if we don't get the chance to answer them live on air, my panelists are brilliant at following up afterwards, so do still get them in. Now, let me introduce you to our superstar lineup today. So I'm going to bring them all onto stage. As I do this, clicking down through. Oh, we have a treat for you today. Look at that brilliant panel. So in no particular order, we have Amy Gershkoff Bowles, who's the Chief Data Officer for Bitly. We have Minna, who's the Data and Analytics Lead for Finnair. We have Maritza, who's the Head of Data for RCS. We have Joanne Stonia, who's the CDO for MasterCard. And we have Besa, Bauta, who's the CDO for MercyFirst. Goodness me, the talent and experience we have on this panel is second to none. Ladies, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Catherine. It's lovely to be here again.
Good to see you, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to this.
I must admit, I can't believe it. These panel sessions just whip round so quickly. I was looking at my calendar last week. I was like, oh my goodness, Monday session. What are we chatting about? We're chatting about the cloud, of course. So let's do just that. We've only got 30 minutes, 25 minutes now. So let's get on with it. So let's start out with a positioning question, shall we? Let's see where everyone is. Where are you on your journey to the cloud? Are you in the cloud? Are you transitioning? Are you prem-based? Or are you a mix of all? Let's go around the room. Maritza, where are you?
So right now, a hybrid, but also very much in the beginning of our cloud journey. It's a very important component of our data strategy. And I think it has to be if you work for a global organization with operations in different countries, or an organization with a very diverse or distributed partner network, where the sharing of data and information could be quite a challenge. And both of these things are true for us. So that is why it's such an important component of our data architecture and our data strategy.
Yeah, maybe if I continue. So at Finnair, we what comes to the data and analytics landscape, we are fully in cloud, have been there for a while now. But as an enterprise, we are still on the hybrid mode and moving towards cloud with our other services.
Super, Minna. Thank you so much. Amy, how about yourself? Where do you find yourself?
So we are fully in the cloud, and actually the last several organizations I've been part of have transitioned to be more fully in the cloud at the time I was there. And I think one of the things we're seeing is that today the cloud, whether you're on, AWS, GCP, Azure, or your own private cloud, the cloud really offers both a flexibility from a computing perspective, and there's now a variety of tools and resources resources that can help with the migration and can enable you to run more advanced analytics at scale. And so I think more and more folks are obviously, migrating to the cloud now that there's been such significant advancements in that area. And there's tools now as well for helping manage costs, which is a big reason that I think some people were initially hesitant. So I think we're seeing more and more folks going to the cloud, and I think that's a trend that's going to continue to accelerate this year.
Yeah.
Fantastic points. And I should have just mentioned at the start, my internet has not been my best friend today. I've had a few issues, but my panelists are experienced speakers. So thank you, Minna, for jumping in there when I was having some audio issues. So if I disappear, the whole stream will continue going, I'm hoping. Let's keep it going. Joanne, tell me a bit about your position.
So we were not early adopters of the cloud, only because of the security issues, but we are on a journey. I said first for analytics, and now continuing our journey right now. We're kind of in hybrid mode, mostly because we're taking our time, given the type of data we hold, and making sure we're working through all of the security issues globally. But I can echo a lot of what Amy said, that it, definitely it is the path of the future.
Brilliant. Certainly something we'll touch upon in a minute. And last but certainly not least, Besa, how about you?
So I think for us is that we handle a lot of patient data, and we decided to move majority of operations to the cloud. There's two different things. I think the security of the cloud partners is actually comparable in the market now to having it on-prem. And also a lot of the tools that are available with on-cloud solutions now, analytics and other types of things, makes it much easier for us to sort of move operations and overall reduce costs instead of having an in-house, management of our data. That this way helps us, contain all of that in one area, and actually makes it a little bit more secure than having it in multiple sites.
Super. Well, there we go. So now we know where our panelists are. Do let us know in the comments where you find yourselves as well. We'll be interested to know. And if you would like to dive deeper into this area, we do have a couple cloud-based reports over on the Business and Data platform as well for a deeper dive into all of the areas that we'll chat through today. So I'm going to pick up on that point. It was raised by a couple of you there about security. Now, from lots of conversation I've had, it seems to be, whether it was over the last year or whether it just felt that way because of COVID, it seemed there was a bit of a transition between the cloud being quite scary and security questions, and then actually it was a lot more secure in most, if not all cases. So I wonder if you could talk to that a little bit. Besa, I'll hand it straight over to you.
So I think in our experience, like I said before, a lot of our cloud computing partners, either Amazon or Microsoft or any of the other partners, have done quite a lot of things sort of to put additional security. And they're handling data at a large scale than otherwise, we would handle. So you have multiple organizations and their job is to actually handle data. So they've gotten really good at actually managing data. So you don't need a data center, and helping us migrate operations to on cloud. Obviously, we have a couple of on-prem, reporting other solutions still that we're in the process of migrating, but the low cost bar entry and having these large corporations actually manage data at a large scale makes it easy for even small organizations and others, midstream to large, to have a pretty good discount, and migrating the data over to the cloud and having somebody else manage it. So then in turn for us internally, it's not about handling or managing or the security, but can we bring value from the information that we have, and how do we optimize operations and use the data for other things rather than just storage and managing?
Brilliant. Now, Joanne, I see you nodding away there.
Well, yeah, happy to jump in. Obviously, our business is managing a network, right? A global network. And so we had to really work with the cloud providers. I agree with what Besa said. They've come a long way. Original conversations, we have to increasingly every day increase our game around security. And so I agree that while all the cloud providers, they're in the business of being able to navigate huge volumes of data, so are we. And our volume of data, though, however, increases every moment, every day, right? And so trying to figure out what the right model was with the cloud providers that we were partnering with took us a little bit more time, I guess was really my point. But increasingly, they are the model, really, if you want to you have that kind of agile approach toward utility of information, especially around analytics. And so, we were able to do that work together in a kind of cooperative manner. But we're still kind of in some transitional moments for us, just given the nature of what we do.
Super brilliant. I can see lots of heads nodding away there. I think this is going to be a similar story for many. But what I love about this panel as well is that we have such a diverse range of industries represented. So it's really interesting to hear that actually there's quite a lot of similarities. Amy, how about you? Thoughts on security and managing, again, that kind of theme that Joanne's brought up there about just the massive data as well?
Yes, absolutely. My fellow panelists are correct that security is absolutely paramount. And I think all the major cloud providers, AWS, GCP, Azure, have come a very long way in terms of really providing very strong enterprise-grade security, even for the most sensitive industries that need the greatest security. But I think, one of the things that's been really interesting following the conversation about security in the cloud is that for all the attention on the security of the technology in the cloud, the biggest security threat for most organizations always remains humans. People, clicking on a phishing email or giving their password to a colleague, or all sorts of security practices that are absolute no-nos. And so I really think, security of data is very important, but securing the data is not only about the technology, it's also about ensuring that your employees are trained in all the best practices to ensure that they're doing their part as well to keep data secure. It's not just the information security department's responsibility, it's all employees' responsibility at any organization to protect the care and security of the data. So I think we're going to see more of that as well.
Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting is no matter how technical the topic gets, it just gets absolutely brought back to that culture and wider humanization of it. And that you can have the biggest and best cloud providing structure in the world, but if you haven't got an employee base who are bought into being safe and using it properly, then it's all for naught essentially. So I mean, as we've kind of gone down this path, are there any kind of tips or advice that you'd give for doing that type of education and making sure that everyone is thinking about data security, cloud security? I'll open that one up to the floor to see if there's anyone that would like to give thoughts on that.
So I think, and I like all three the points that's just come out of the previous discussion around, our focus really has to be on using the cloud to provide business value. We don't want our focus to be on the security, being collaborative with our vendors, and then the sort of the people components. So I think, just as a foundation for your cloud strategy, it should be part of firstly your data strategy, but also supported by a very clear governance framework. And in fact, in South Africa, the South African Reserve Bank published a directive, I think in 2018, on how data in the cloud should be managed in terms of your governance framework, specifically for banking and financial services. So that very much spoke to your operating model, your data governance operating model, but also how you classify your data. So I think just to sum up, just like everything else in data and analytics, you can't go on a cloud journey without having it supported by a clear data strategy and a clear data governance framework.
Absolutely brilliant. I can already see the write-up for this in my head, and that's going to be a key quote, I think, a key takeaway for so many people. And I think a lot of people in the audience will be going, yes, Maritza, exactly that, and they'll be sending this to their wider teams for certain. Now, Minna, you've been a little bit quiet. I'm keen to bring you in on this discussion here. we've kind of evolved from security. So I'm going to ask the next question I've got here, which is about the biggest challenges that you believe that organizations need to consider when they're talking about this journey, no matter where they are. What would you say are the biggest challenges that you think organizations need to be thinking about?
Yeah, I would maybe naturally continue from the previous one. So it's definitely having the governance in place successfully, which means that it needs to be in the DNA of the organization culture. And we need to ensure that we don't only have the rules and policies in place, but also that we have really implemented them and they are part of the daily work. And then maybe in addition to security, I would also like to highlight the importance of managing the cost in cloud, because cloud provides this really scalable environment to process the data, and that's the benefit of it. But then the downside can be that you suddenly create huge volumes of costs instead. So it's really about being aware and cautious about what you do on the cloud and how do you process data, what data do you process, and that the costs are in line with the business value provided.
Brilliant. Let's keep it going. Besa, how about yourself? What is the biggest challenge that you would say make sure you're thinking about it, considering it, looking out for it on this journey?
I like what Minna said. I think it's really important that obviously you have large scale. I mean, like, I'm just taking Amazon as an example. Not that, there's plenty of other cloud providers, but in a way they're thinking, they're expanding their portfolio of, products and services. So it's not just the hosting and the security. Now they have cloud computing at a large scale where they have some cognitive options. So as Minna said, that sometimes there's shiny objects out there that you could do much more with your information, that it becomes, does it really bring business value if you, do decide to consume this additional product? What is the end goal? So even sort of thinking through having a roadmap as far as what is it that you would like to do for the business? What are your short, medium, long-term goals? And how can your information and the use of your information kind of bring value to the organizations to make it much more efficient, but also value in developing business products and other types of services if that's, the model that you're using. And thinking through, what are the cost benefits of that entire operation from short, medium, and long-term outcomes, and having a good strategy as far as, do the costs outweigh, some of the benefits and vice versa, and having that strategic plan when you actually do migrate to the cloud, and also thinking through, what benefit does it, bring for continuing on and consuming much more services long-term.
Absolutely brilliant. Amy, do you want to build on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think costs is a big area of both risk and opportunity for companies when you've migrated your data to the cloud, to make sure that as you're taking advantage of some of these bells and whistles that Amazon, GCP, and Azure offer from an analytics standpoint, that you're really getting the business value out of it. But I also think that it's really important. One friendly piece of advice I'd offer for folks who are beginning their journey to the cloud, as someone who's now led or been part of journeys to the cloud now at multiple organizations. We did a couple of things that really helped us to land that migration well, with no downtime and no customer impact. One of those is that we sort of gamed out not just the steps that need to happen in the migration, but everything that could possibly go wrong at each step of the process, almost a war games kind of strategy. And then we came up with mitigation strategies at each stage for anything that could go wrong in terms of the migration of the data, downtime or lost customer data. What would we do? How would we roll back to ensure that we didn't have customer impact? And that strategy of not just planning out the project, but planning out where and how things could go wrong and what you would do about it in the moment was incredibly helpful in ensuring no downtime, no customer impact. Because I think one of the biggest challenges organizations face in these types of migrations is you can get partway through and have a number of things go wrong, and then you're scrambling. But if you've already sort of planned in advance what you do in that situation, it can be incredibly helpful. And the other piece of advice I'd offer for folks who are beginning that journey is to bring in experts who've done this before. A lot of organizations think that, whether it's their, chief data officer, chief technology officer, chief information officer that, who's might be quite smart and capable, that they can just handle it on their own. And they probably can, but do you really want to take that risk with one of the most important durable assets that your organization has, which is your data? Probably not. And so bringing in experts who've done many migrations before. At a previous company, we brought in some partners in Accenture who had done many of these migrations before. They'd seen it all. That really helped in terms of making sure that we knew where the blind spots were, where the potential potholes were, and what we would do if things happen along the way. And that ensured a smooth migration for us and for all of our customers.
Brilliant. Now I'm just going to quickly pop this up on screen. Make sure to connect with our speakers. Business of Data is a community. We're really trying to connect as many people in the wider data analytics community. And something I get asked all the time is, who's the best people to talk to? These people right here. Make sure you connect with them. The link should be in the description. As Amy's just said there, lots of the panelists have worked in multiple organizations, have lots of journeys and experiences to speak on. So connect with them, ask them questions. I'm sure they will reply to you for certain. And don't forget, you can influence the topics that we discuss as well. So if there's anything from this that's provoked a question for you, let us know. Right, we have just under 10 minutes left to go. Now, I want to dedicate the last part of this this conversation towards the last year we've had and kind of future looking. I'm interested to know how COVID-19 impacted your journey into the cloud, being within it, whether you were further ahead in that journey, which has ended up being very helpful to you, or whether it disrupted it at all. I'm genuinely have no idea what your answers are going to be, really. So I'm intrigued, and I think the audience will be as well. So, Joanne, as you smiled so nicely then, I'm going to pick on you first. What's COVID done for your journey, and what does your journey look like going forward?
Well, I think COVID for everybody was an accelerant. And so we were on a journey. I think that, the cloud helps with distributing, right, your infrastructure. And for us and for many of our customers and clients, I think that the very nature of the cloud is very, very helpful. Now, I go back to a lot of what Amy said. If you did not have a really good project plan and approach, though, and make sure that you were testing it along the way, you could wind up in a lot of trouble. And so I think COVID was an accelerant in one way. And I don't know for organizations that didn't really have a cloud strategy, I think that for many of them, when it came to COVID, they recognized that they needed either infrastructure, applications, or data availability to a distributed workforce or distributed customer base that the cloud enables in a really wonderful way as just its very nature. But if you don't have a methodology for which aspects of your business, which tools, which products, which solutions you're going to move first, second, third, I think it could also be an accelerant into kind of a mess, right? So having the right kind of project plan and governance and an approach toward the migration, I think, is super important. But for us, it certainly made us move faster, just given the nature that business needed to be transacted in a whole new way.
Brilliant, brilliant. Besa, how about you over with the healthcare industry?
So I kind of second whatever Joanne said. Is definitely was an accelerant, and obviously has impacted the healthcare sector much more. And one of the highlights is that, obviously the data in healthcare is very fragmented. So one of the sort of lessons learned in this process is, thinking about how can we share information at a large scale, but also centralize. And I think the cloud allows, the very nature of it allows for centralization. In a way, it can also help us, thinking through, what value can be added and how the information can be shared in a centralized way. So I agree with her. That is definitely an accelerant in a lot of ways. But with that, I think we have to think about what are the challenges as we're moving and accelerating more and centralizing that information as well.
How has COVID impacted you in going forwards?
Yeah, I would say in general, the impact hasn't been that big. Obviously, being an airline, the total impact, like a financial impact to our business has been huge, and that has caused some of our key projects to be not stopped completely, but kind of moving to a smaller project team, but still continuing on the path and on the roadmap that we chose earlier. So none of our goals, none of our targets have changed, but how much we have been able to invest now during the past year has been changed because of COVID. But we are still on the journey to bring everything to cloud, and we are still on the journey to build our data platform further, and all the investments that we did before COVID or during the past couple of years, they have been really serving us now. So we have had all the key enablers in place so that we have been able to focus on using the data and providing the business value also during these very challenging times.
Brilliant. Now, we've only got a few minutes remaining. However, we had a question come in from the audience. Now, Adriana has written in and asked how the DG program can help the cloud migration. So, Adriana, I hope you're still listening in. Maritza, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So I think your data governance program can really help shift away from cloud for the sake of it to cloud by design. So looking at your cloud journey and your cloud strategy and your migration from a people and a process point of view. So people, I think someone else touched on this earlier. You want to make sure that your operating structure in the organization, so your data owners and your data stewards are fully trained, and that they have the right level of awareness around what your cloud migration means from a privacy point of view, for example, how it changes the way that we share and use data. And then from a process point of view or data management point of view, I think that you certainly have to incorporate it into your metadata management process, because your environment is becoming more complex. Your data platform is becoming more complex. So you have to take the complexity out of it for your data analytics audience. And one way to do that is through data dictionary, lineage, or managing the lineage between your on-prem and your cloud structures, etc. So I think that your data governance program can actually assist multiple ways: people, process, data management, etc. But of course, that does mean that you need a very clear organizational enterprise data governance operating model in place.
Super duper. Just like that, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this month's panel. But thank you, as always, to our amazing speakers for being so open and honest. And as I say, I do urge you to connect with them, because most, if not all, do put out lots of content on LinkedIn as well. So it's always great to catch up with them. Now, don't forget, you can subscribe to the Business of Data for lots of brilliant content. I did mention it earlier. We do have a couple of reports literally about the cloud, so right on this topic area. So I hope you deep dive into those. And we do have a couple of podcast episodes as well. So if you are interested in hearing more about the cloud or any other data analytics topic, then do pop over and subscribe, as well as following us on socials to make sure you're always alerted when we have these LinkedIn live sessions. Now, next month, we will have our next leading female executive session on the 8th of March, which will be a really exciting session, as it does happily clash with International Women's Day. And given that we have such a brilliant panel of women in data, I am very excited to celebrate such brilliant international women as we are, because we're based from all over the place. But as always, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.